We begin today the Gemara on Daf Kufay and Gimel Amud Beis, towards the bottom of the Amud, by the two dots where it says Vim Omar Amanas She'efra Mimisha Eretzachulo. This is going back to what it said in the Mishnah. The Mishnah speaks about a person that's lending money and there's a guarantor. There's a orev that says that I guarantee the payment of this loan. So in the Mishnah it said that there's two possibilities. Either you have, in a regular case, a person comes and says, I'm an orev, I guarantee to pay. And then the Mishnah says there's another case where the lender says, I'm only going to lend this money if I get the option to get my payment from whoever I want. I can get my payment from the borrower, or I can go to the guarantor, whoever I want. So then the Mishnah said that the lender can go and get his payment from the guarantor. He can even go first to the guarantor before he goes to the borrower. So let's see again. So the Mishnah said, if the lender said, I am only lending the money on condition that I can get paid from whoever I wish, so then he goes to the guarantor first. So Rabbi Bar Bachana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that there's a limitation to this. When could he go to the guarantor first? Only if there's no nechasim that the loiva has. Now, what does the word nechasim here mean? So according to some Rishonim, according to Taisvis, nechasim means that if there's no properties that the loiva has that he can collect from. Even if the loiva has metaltal and other movable items that if you would have to confiscate from him, the lender has the right to say, I'm not bothering. I'm going first to the guarantor to get paid from him. But if the loiva has properties, karkois, then he's going to have to go first to the borrower. Other Rishonim say that many Rishonim, that when it says nechasim, it means that the lender has to first go to the borrower in a case where there's properties that we know, that everybody knows that the borrower owns. But if it's a situation where we don't know of any properties that the borrower owns, the lender in such a case is not going to have to go and make an investigation. Does he have maybe a bank account somewhere? Does he maybe have some properties in another place that nobody knows about? If you don't know, we don't see that he owns any properties, then he can go to the guarantor. But we have to first see if there's any nechasim, any known nechasim for the loiva. If there's nechasim, whether it means karkois or known nechasim that the loiva has, la yifra min ha'arev. He cannot go and collect first from the guarantor. What does the Mishnah continue and say? Rav Shimon Gamliel argues in this. And Rav Shimon Gamliel says, Rav Shimon Gamliel oimer, im yesh nechasim l'loiva, that if the borrower has properties, then la yifra min ha'arev. So then the lender is not allowed to go and collect from the guarantor. So Rav Shimon Gamliel is the one that says this, miklal. So from this I understand the Tanakam is savar, that the Tanakama's opinion is lo yishna hachi v'lo yishna hachi, that it doesn't matter whether we know that he has properties, that he can still go to the guarantor first. So how could Rabbi Yochanan say this as the pshat and what the Tanakam is saying here? Answers the Gemara, Chasure Mechsere, there's missing something here in the Mishnah, V'hachi Katani, this is how you have to read the Mishnah. There's another case that the Gemara is going to explain, that we're talking over here in the Mishnah about an Orev, which is a regular level of a guarantor, and then there's what's called the Orev Kablan. When you say a stronger language, when you accept upon yourself that you can come to collect from me first, then that's the case where there was the argument between the Tanakam and Rav Shimon Gamliel. And you have to read in the Mishnah as follows. Hamal ves chaver al yedei orev. You lend someone money because there's a guarantor here guaranteeing you to pay. Lo yifra min ha'arev. You're not allowed to go first to collect it from the guarantor. You have to go to the borrower first. Now, but if the lender says that I'm only lending the money on condition that I can collect from whoever I wish, then yifra min ha'arev. You can come to collect the money first from the guarantor. Here you have to add into the Mishnah that it should fit with what Rabbi Yochanan said. This is what was missing. That when is this said that you can go to the guarantor first? When there is no properties or known possessions to the borrower. But if he does have nechasim, then lo yifrim min ha'arev. He can't go and take the money from the guarantor first. That's the case that the Tanakama was speaking about. One second, Gemara is going to explain. But now there's another case, the kablon. Then you have to add in the Mishnah. There's a case not an orev, a kablon. It's a different language that a person uses when he guarantees on the level of a kablon. And over here, when you're a kablon, so afapisha yesh nechasim l'leive. Even if we know that the borrower has properties, yifrem and a kablon. The Tanakama holds you can go directly to this kablon. The lender can go to him and get paid from the kablon. He doesn't have to go at all to the leive. And on this, Rav Shimon Gamliel argues, if the borrower has properties, that doesn't matter. Even in this case, whether you're an Orev or even if you're a Kablan, even on the level of a Kablan, if the borrower himself has properties, you cannot go and collect from the guarantor.
He only argues on the case of Kablan.
Yes, that is the answer of the Gemara. Therefore, it fits with what Rabbi Yechanan said, because Rav Shimon Gamliel is only arguing on the case of a Kablan, correct?
What's a Kablan?
The Gemara is going to say right now. Let's see. So the Gemara, first it says the halacha here. Amar Rabbi Bar Bachana, Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Kol Mokem Shoshana, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel b'Mishnaseinu. Anytime in Mishnayos, where you have Rav Shimon Gamliel saying his opinion, not in Braisos, but in Mishnayos, halacha kamaisa. We always follow like the opinion of Rav Shimon Gamliel, chutz, besides 3 cases, and one of them is this case. Me Orev, this case here regarding the halacha of Orev, which is really regarding the Kablan that he argues, and a case of Tzidon, a case of Tzidon, which is brought in Gittin, and a case of Raya Achreina, which is brought in Masechta Sanhedrin, which in Mitzvah Shem we're going to learn next. Okay. Now, what is the Kablan, you ask? So let's see, the Gemara here brings that it's really based on the language that the guarantor says when he's telling the lender, I'm guaranteeing payment of this loan. So Amar Rav Huna says, Hilvahu. If the language the guarantor says, lend this person money, Vani Arif, and I'm a guarantor. Or he says, Hilvahu, lend him money, Vani Pareya, and I'll pay. Hilvahu, lend him money, Vani Chayev, and I'll be obligated. Hilvahu va'ani naisin, or some take out va'ani naisin because nisin is already, or va'ani etain, I will give. Kulan loshen arvasein. All of these expressions are an expression of just being a guarantor on a basic level, which means that you have to go first to the borrower, and if the borrower is not going to pay, then you can come to the guarantor. However, if the language that the guarantor said is ten loy, give the money to him, va'ani kablan, and I'm accepting upon myself. 10 loy, give the money to this person, vani pareh, and I will pay. 10 loy, give him the money, vani chayev, and I'm obligated. Or 10 loy, vani noisin, or vani etain. Give him, and I'm going to be obligated, and I'll give back to you. Here I say different. Kulon, all these expressions, lashon kablon is saying. That means that you're accepting this loan upon yourself, that it's really, the point here is, by arevos, it's a loan between the lender and the borrower. Elamai, there's someone else that comes and is guaranteeing it. Mashenkin, when you use the term of 10, so here's something else. You didn't say lend him. Lend him means it's a loan between you and him. I'm just a person on the outside that's going to take responsibility for this, to guarantee the payment. When you say 10, you're not even mentioning the fact that there's a loan going on between another person. You're saying to someone, you have money, give. You're telling the person what to do with the money. Go give the money to that person. Over here, the way we look at your guaranteeing this is that you're saying that I'm taking the money, the guarantor is taking the money from the lender, and I'm giving the money to that person that wants to borrow it. And therefore, it's like you are the first person you're taking the money, so therefore he can come to you first to collect the money. Now the emes is that the Rashbam earlier on Kufayin Gimel Amud Bey said that emes by every level of a guarantor, it works that way. The reason why a person, when he guarantees, has to pay is because it's as if he borrowed the money because the lender only gave the money because you were guaranteeing. And you're getting hana from this. It's as if, the Rashbam says, it's as if you're getting the money and giving the money to the borrower. But nevertheless, there's still a difference in the language that you use, to what level you want your arevis to take effect. When you're saying halveyu, lend him the money, so then it takes effect in a way that you should go to collect the money from the borrower first. But if you use the word 10, so over here, you're saying that because the money is coming through me to him, therefore come to me first. It's really between you and the lender. That's the concept of a kablan. So based on this, the Gemara says, well, it really, again, the
Tanakama doesn't hold that.
Now the Tanakama is the one that says that the kablan is stronger. Rav Shimon Gamliel, you meant to say. Rav Shimon Gamliel is the one that says that even by a kablan, it's similar to a orev, that you can't go to the kablan first. But according to Tanakama, a kablan is different. You can go to the kablan first.
Yeah. There's no difference.
Basically, yeah. That's what it seems like. Yeah. So since it's dependent on the language you use, so now the question is, what's if we change up the lashon a little? Hilvahu, you begin with one expression. You say hilvahu, lend him money. It sounds like you're saying that it's he's first, you lend him money. But then you said va'ani kablan, I'm accepting it upon myself. So you use the term kablan, that you're accepting it as if it's all you, to come to you first. Or you said 10 lo, you started off with the term 10, which means you're saying give. You're not even identifying this as a loan that he's lending to someone else. You're just saying 10 give, but then you finished off with the language of ani orev. I'm just a guarantor, meaning that I'm just outside, I'm just guaranteeing, and it's not me. So how do we understand these two expressions that have two opposite expressions in it? Rabbi Yitzchak says, Loshen arvus, that you look at the expression here, when it says arvus, he used the term in the end. Orev, so then he means it's just a guarantor, arvus. Loshen kablanus, but if you see in the end, he said the word kablan, then kablanus, then it means he's on a level of a kablan that you can come to him to collect the loan first. So you look at that main word of orev and kablan. Rav Chisda Amar, another opinion. Rav Chisda says, Kulan Loshen kablanus same. Whatever expression a person uses, I'm always going to assume that it means a language of kablanus. Bar mehalvo va'ani orev. Unless the person clarifies very clearly and says, Hilvo va'ani orev, see, from the beginning to the end, it's clear that all he's saying is, lend him the money and I'll guarantee it, then I say that he's just a regular orev. Otherwise, I assume that if you're getting involved there and you're telling the lender to lend this money, really, you're a kablan. He's only lending the money because of you, and that's really the way every orev works, that it's all based on you, that it's as if you are the one that's borrowing the money and giving it to the borrower. So therefore, usually the assumption is that you're a kablan, unless you make it clear that you're a orev. Rava says actually the exact opposite. Kulan lashon arev is saying. The assumption is that a person wants to accept upon himself less of an obligation to pay. In the end of the day, he's not the one that's having the benefit here from the actual money. So we always assume, if there's a mixture in the language, we always will assume that it means arevus. But unless he makes it very clear that he's a kablan with the whole language he said. Miten loy va'ani naisen. You use the lashon of ten loy and va'ani naisen, so then both expressions, it fully means that you're a kablan, that you're accepting upon yourself, he can come to you to collect first. Now, another opinion about this, Amule Mar Barameimel Ravashi, Mar Barameimel said to Ravashi, Hachiyah Ma'aba, this is what my father, Ameimer, said, Ten loy, vani naisen loy, if you use this expression, when you tell the lender, you give money to him, and I'll give you back, so then in such a case, you're even stronger. Ein l'malva l'loiva klum. The malva has no right b'chalal to collect the money from the loiva. Not only that he can go to the kablan first, but he could also go to the borrower. In such a case, you're saying to the lender, it's between me and you. You give the money, and I'll give it back to you. Forget about the other person. So in such a case, it's stronger, much more than just even a regular kablan. But the Gemara says about this, v'loihi. We don't pass it this way. That loy lemifta loivi minei de malva, that he's not going to, by saying this language, you're not going to cause that the loive, the borrower, should be exempt of allowing the malva, the lender, to come and collect from him, unless you go and take the money from the hands of the lender, you take the money for yourself, and then you go and give the money to the borrower. So in such a case, you took the money with your hands from the lender, so then it's between the guarantor and the lender. So that's when we say that it's even more than a kablan, that you can't even go b'chlal, the lender can't even go b'chlal to the borrower. It's only between the lender and the guarantor. So the Gemara brings a story, Ahu Dayana. There was a judge that the achse lemalva lenichse de loive, that allowed the lender to go and collect from the properties of a borrower, mikamei de litve leloive, even before they went to talk to the borrower himself to demand from him to pay. They didn't have any conversation with the borrower himself, and they went and they took from his properties. Solke Rav Chanan Bereid Rav Yeva. So Rav Chanan Bereid Rav Yeva said he removed this judge from being a judge. So now the Gemara explains, Amar Rava, so Rava said about this, Man chakim lemevet ki ha milso, who's wise to do this, to remove this judge? Ilab Rav Chanan Bereid Rav Yeva, if it's not Rav Chanan Bereid Rav Yeva. So the Gemara explains, why did he remove him? Kosavar, the reason is because he holds, Nichse de barinish, the properties of a person. Why do you collect a loan from the properties of a person? Inin ma'arvin yaseh, it's because the properties of a person are like the guarantor for the payment. Really, who has to pay here? The person has to pay. It's a shibud on his guf. He has the obligation to pay. And he pays. He pays with cash. He pays however he wants. But now, if he's not going to come forward and pay, so then you go to the properties which are like the guarantor for the loan. That's why when a person lends money, he looks to see, does this person own any properties, if he's going to have to come and confiscate. And therefore, with Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Hamavas chaver al yidei arev, if you lend someone money and there's a guarantor here, lo yifrem an arev. You don't go and collect from the arev, the kaimulan, and we know what's the pshat in the Mishnah, lo yitva arev tchila. You never go to the guarantor first. By a regular guarantor, you first go to the borrower, and then if he can't pay, then you'd go to the guarantor. So over here as well, you first go to the person himself to get the collection of the money, and if he's not paying, so then you go to his properties. But you can't go to the properties first. Another story with a Orev. This leads us into a whole different discussion here regarding Yisaimim. Zok the Gemara, who arved the Yasmi. There was this guarantor of a loan that's now by Yisaimim. So this was a guarantor for a loan that the father owed money. And what happened was, the Pare Lemalve, so this guarantor went after the father died. So now the Yisaimim are the ones that have the properties of the father. So this guarantor of the loan went and paid up this loan, Mekame de Ledinu Yasmi, before he let the Yisaimim themselves know about this. That the Malve didn't come to demand the money from the Yisaimim. And the Malva knows he's going to come to the one demand the money from the Yisaimim. It'll be a problem. It'll be hard for him to get his money collected. So he went to the guarantor, and the guarantor paid without them coming, without letting know the Yisaimim about this. So now what happens? Now after the guarantor pays up their father's loan, the guarantor now comes to the Yisaimim and says, "I paid up your father's loan. Reimburse me. Pay me back." So now it's sort of a new loan now. That in other words, now the Yisaimim owe money to this guarantor. What Rav Papa said about this, Priyas Balchoiv mitzvah, paying up a loan that your father owed is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah, you're obligated to do the mitzvah, but the thing is, here we're talking about Yisaimim that were Ketanim. Yasmi, Yisaimim that are Ketanim, La B'nei Meved Mitzvah Ninu, they're not yet Bar Mitzvah, so therefore we can't force them to do a mitzvah, and therefore they're not going to be forced to pay up this loan. Okay, so the point that Rav Papa is saying is, when a person dies and there's loans that he owed, so there's two possibilities. Either there's a milva b'shtar, meaning this loan is documented in such a case, when it's in a shtar, there's a shibud, there's a lien on the actual properties. And in that case, even if the Yisaimim are ketanim, and we can't force them to do the mitzvah to pay up their father's loan, but it doesn't matter. There's an actual shibud on the properties, and therefore we're going to collect from the properties. But in a case where it's a milval peh, that's another thing. When it's a loan that's not documented, so over here, there is no shibud on any properties. It's just an obligation that they have to pay. And here, the children have a mitzvah to pay the father's loan. But when they're ketanim, we can't force them to do the mitzvah. So therefore, over here, now the money that the guarantor wants to collect from him, there's no documentation for this. So now the guarantor is collecting a milva al peh. So therefore, it's just a mitzvah. So they're going to have to wait. The guarantor, that is going to have to wait until these children become gedolim, and then they'll be able to pay. We'll force them to pay.
Can you do it through an apotropos?
No, not even an apotropos either.
So if the Rav didn't want to pay, he didn't have to pay.
No. He went and paid in advance. He thought he was doing maybe a good thing to pay up, but he didn't have to pay. Rav Huna b'Rav Yeshua gives a different reason why we're not going to collect this money from these Yisaimim that are Ketanim. Why? Because Eimer, there's a concern there. I could say, maybe the father, when he was still alive, he gave a bundle of money or a bundle of valuables to the lender as a mashkin. Why did the guarantor rush to go ahead and pay before he waited to find out from the children, from the Yisaimim? Maybe they have some information that they know or that they can find out looking into the father's documents, that maybe the father already gave a mashkin to the lender. So why did he rush to pay? So therefore we wait until these children are gedolim, and then these children, these Yisaimim, will be able to investigate this matter, and we give them a chance to tie it, that maybe our father paid up already. Says the Gemara, my benayu, what's the difference between both of these reasons? Because according to both reasons, you can't collect from them when they're ketanim, but when they're gedolim, then the guarantor will be able to collect from them. So what's the difference? Says the Gemara, ike benayu, the difference will be in a case where it's clear that the father did not give any bundle of valuables to the lender. Kishachayev maide, before he passed away, he admitted, he said clearly, I didn't give him anything, this money is still owed. Inami, or in a case where it's clear that he didn't pay yet because the shamtu, this lender this borrower that is, refused to pay, and because of that he was put into a shamta, into some form of a chayrim, umeis b'shamta, and he passed away in that condition of being in a shamta. So we know that he didn't pay. So in such a case, the reason of Rav Huna b'Reida Rav Yeshua does not apply. So here, the guarantor can collect the payment of the loan even from these Yisaimim Ketanim. But if it's the reason of Rav Papa, which is that the children don't have the obligation to do a mitzvah, so then it doesn't matter. Even if we know for a fact that the father didn't pay and what the guarantor did was right, but nevertheless, now this loan that the children own, which is a milval peh, they don't pay to the guarantor. until the age of the Gedolim, when they're obligated to do a mitzvah. So Sholchu Mitam, they sent from there, from Eretz Yisrael, to say, what's the halacha? Shamtu umeis b'shamte, in a case where the father was placed in a shamte and he died in that situation, so we know that this loan was not paid. So Hilchasek Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yeshua, we paskin like Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yeshua, that then the guarantor can collect the money even from these children. There's no concern that maybe the father already paid this up or gave a bundle of valuables to the lender.
Not everybody holds that Prius Balchayv is a mitzvah.
No, everybody, this concept of Prius Balchayv mitzvah.
Then Rav Huna would hold that then.
So then there's another different thing. Yes, I hear what you're saying. Maybe according to Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yeshua, you have to pay anyways. Even by a milval peh, you have to pay anyways. Yeah. Okay, Zok the Gemara Meisvei. So the Gemara asked the question from the following brayse. It says, "Orev shehoy shtar chayv yitzim mitachas yadai." A guarantor that paid up a loan for the Yisayimim, and now he has actually the document of the loan in his hands. The lender gave him the document of the loans of this loan that he paid. Ein goyve. He cannot collect for this payment from the Yisayimim. However, ve'im kosav b'yis kabalti mimcha. If the lender wrote into this document that he gave to the guarantor that paid him, that his kabalti mimcha, I received the payment from you, then goyve. Then in such a case, you could collect, this guarantor will be able to collect from the Yisayimim for this that he paid up the loan. He has a document proving that he paid, because the lender gave him this document, and the lender wrote him, it's kabalti, I received payment from you, so that's proof. So now the Gemara says, according to Rav Huna Bereid Rav Yeshua, what it says in this brayse is understood. If it's a case where when the father passed away, he was maide that he didn't pay up this loan yet, so then now when the guarantor pays it, and he has a document that says that he actually gave the payment, it says his kabalti, so the lender received, so then I say that he paid it up, and there's no chashashis here, so therefore the children are going to have to pay this even when they are ketanim. But according to Rav Papa, that says that it doesn't matter. It's not a concern about that maybe the father paid up before, even if you know for a fact the father didn't pay and that the guarantor actually paid up the loan as the document that says his kabalti proves, but it doesn't matter. Kashya, it's still a question because Rav Papa says we cannot collect from Yisayimim when they're ketanim, since it's only a mitzvah, and as ketanim we can't force them to do this mitzvah. And says the Gemara, Shani Hasam, in that case it's different. Lahachi tarach v'kosav lei his kabalti. Over here in this case, where the lender wrote into this document to the guarantor when he paid him, his kabalti, received, and he gave that document itself to the guarantor, now the guarantor is holding a document in his hands. And a document that it says in it is kabalti. And therefore, when he comes to collect from the Yisayimim, it's not considered to be anymore a milva balpeh. As I said before, a milva balpeh is just a mitzvah, because there's no lien on actual properties. But when you come with a loan that has a document, and in this case the guarantor has a document that says his kabalti, that's not considered to be a milva b'shtar, and therefore he will be able to collect from the Yisayimim, from the properties that are owed to him. But this is only if it's written in it as kabalti. If it's written as kabalti, so then this is considered to be a loan that's documented. But if they didn't write as kabalti, so then that's not really their document. This is the document of the original loan that he's holding in his hands, that he got from the lender for this to prove that he paid. But it wasn't written for him, a documented loan, his kabalti. Only when you write that into the shtar, then we say that this is considered to be a documented loan that the guarantor now can collect even from the Yisayimim Ketanim, from their properties.
But only from the properties.
From the properties. Yeah, correct. So to Gemara, another case of a guarantor. There was a case with a person that guaranteed the loan that a yid borrowed from a guy. The so now this guarantor went and paid the guy before the guy came, and this is also a case of Yisayimim. Now the father died, and now this guarantor wanted to do a favor for the Yisayimim, so he pays up this loan that's owed to a guy before they came even to collect the money from the Yisayimim. Amalei Rav Mordechai Rav Ashi, so Rav Mordechai says to Rav Ashi, Hachi Ama Avimi Ma'agrunya Mishmei de Rava. Avimi from Agrunya said in the name of Rava, Afilu L'man Amar Cheshinu L'tzrari. Even according to the opinion of Huna Bereid Rav Yeshua, that said that in such a case you can't force the children to pay before they become adults to investigate this matter, because it could be that the father already gave some mashkin, some collateral, some valuables to the lender, in this case the guy. But over here we actually don't say that. Hanimili Yisrael. That's by the case when the lender is a Yid. But in a case where the lender is a guy, Kivin, the Basa Arva Ozil, because by the Goyim, the Gemara brought this on the previous daf, that by the Goyim, when there was a guarantor in the loan, so the lender would go straight to the guarantor to collect. He wouldn't even go to the borrower at all. So since that's what the Goyim do, they go straight to the guarantor. Lo chashinu l'tzrari. We're not concerned that the father gave a collateral, because the father says to himself, why should I give a mashkin if anyways the Goyim are going to go and collect directly from the guarantor? So in such a case, we're not cheshish v'tzrari, and therefore the Yisayimim will have to pay the guarantor that paid up this loan. So Rav Ashi said, or rather Rav Ashi said, Adarabah. On the contrary, for this reason that you're saying here, that Goyim go straight to the guarantor, it would be logical to now say the opposite. Even according to Rav Papa, that's not concerned about this, that maybe the father already gave a bundle, a collateral to the lender. Hanimili Yisrael. When am I not concerned about that? That's if the lender is a Yid. But in a case where the lender is a Goy, Kivin didinayu. Since in the judgment by Goyim, Basa Arva Ozli, they go directly to collect from the guarantor. So why would a person ever agree to be a guarantor for a loan in a case where he knows that the lender is going to come to him to collect? So in such a case, if not for the fact that the lender gave a collateral to the guy, the lender, from the beginning, so then the guarantor would never take upon himself to be a guarantor for this loan. A person would only be ready to be a guarantor on a loan that the lender is a guy if the borrower is at least ready to give some kind of a mashkin here. So therefore, Adarab, in such a case where the lender is a guy, everybody would agree that it is a chash that the father already gave tzrari, gave a bundle of valuables to the lender. Okay, going back to the Mishnah. So the Mishnah said a very interesting din, that in a case where you have a guarantor for the payment of a ksubeh, so in such a case, we're afraid of a knunya. Now the husband and wife could conspire and do the following. The wife will say, let's make a divorce, and once I'll be divorced, so now I can collect the ksubeh. And who am I going to collect the ksubeh from? I'll collect the ksubeh from the guarantor, because you don't have any money. And then afterwards, we'll get remarried once I get that money. So in such a case, what do we do to prevent that? So they have to make a neder. The husband makes a neder that he's not going to have any hana from his wife. So therefore, he will not be able to remarry her. So if they can't make this shtick to have a divorce and then to get remarried. So the Gemara brings a story about this. Moshe bar Atzri, a fellow by the name of Moshe bar Atzri, Arve the Ksubase the Kalose Have. He was the guarantor of the Ksube of his daughter-in-law. Now, who was his son? Rav Huna Berei. Rav Huna, the great Rav Huna, was his son. I don't know if this is the Rav Huna that's always brought in Shas. Rav Huna was his son. Tzor b'mid Rabbanan Have, and he's a Talmud Chacham. And Udchikale Milsa. He had no money. And his father, Moshe Ba'atzri, didn't want to support him, and he had no money. So Amar Abaye says, Abaye, let's use this Eitzah here. Leked, the Nezel, the Nasva Eitzel, Rav Huna. Nobody can give good advice for Rav Huna how he can get support and how he can end up getting money from his father. Let him do as follows: the Nigrishila de Bisu, let him go and divorce his wife, and then V'tezel v'tigbi ksube me'avua. Now, the father is the one that guaranteed the payment of the ksube. They'll collect the money of the ksube from the father, and v'hadana hadra. Once he collects that money, he can go and remarry her. That's what Abaye said he should do. Amalei Rave, so Rave says about this, but you're not supposed to do this. The Mishnah it says, in such a case, you come to a Bezdin and you say that you want to divorce your wife, and there's a Oriv, Bezdin knows here that there's a Oriv that's guaranteeing here this ksube, so then you have to make a neder hana that you're never going to remarry. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye said, Otu called him Megarish Bevedina Megarish. Everybody that divorces his wife does it with a Bezdin, even though usually it's done in a Bezdin, but you don't have to do it in a Bezdin. So Rav Huna can make this divorce with his wife, not in front of the Bezdin, and then collect the money, and then nobody will prevent him of remarrying his wife. But the Gemara says this Eitzah did not work in this case, because l'seifig loy milse, then it was revealed the Kayino. This Rav Huna here was a Kayin, so he anyways can't remarry his wife, so it's not going to work. Amar Abaye, so Abaye that was trying to help Rav Huna and his Eitzah didn't work, said, Haine Damri Inchi, this is the saying that people say, Basar Anya Azlani Yusa. After a poor person, poverty follows him, that his bad mazel causes him to remain poor. Even here, he tried to give him this Eitzah, but it didn't even work out, and he couldn't help him with this. Okay, Okay, but now the Gemara asks on this, how did Abai even think of giving him an eitzah to do something which is against what Chazal were masakin? Chazal instituted that you're not supposed to do such a kind of thing. Umi, Amar Abaya Achi, did Abaya say this? Amar Abaya said, Ezehu Rasha Arum, who is a Rasha, a wicked person, which is Arum. How do they translate Arum there?
Evildoer.
A what?
Cunning evildoer.
A cunning evildoer. Zeh hamesi eitze limkar b'nechasim k'Rab Shimon Gamliel. When you give someone a bad advice, which is legally, technically allowed, but it's bad advice. And this is based on what Rab Shimon Gamliel said. What did Rab Shimon Gamliel say? In a case where a person gets a gift, but the giver of the gift tells you, I'm giving it to you, and after you pass away, it should be given to someone else. So according to Rebbe, even if the person, the first recipient of the gift, sells it off to someone else when he's alive, after he dies, the second recipient that's supposed to get the gift goes to the buyer and says, after the first recipient, I come. So he confiscates it from the buyer. Rab Shimon Gamliel says, no, the second recipient only gets something if the first recipient left something over. But if he sold it in his lifetime, then the second recipient gets nothing. So even though it's against the wish of the giver of the gift, but the first recipient could take advantage of this and avoid his wish of being fulfilled. So Abaye said, if you do this, if you give a person the eitzah to follow what Rab Shimon Gamliel says, and the halacha is like him, what's done is done. But it's considered to be a cunning rasha because you caused him to now not allow the wish of the giver to be fulfilled. So in our case as well, to give an eitzah to do such a kind of thing, to get money out of his father that was the guarantor for the ksuba, when Chachamim said that you're not supposed to do this, is not the right thing. So why would Abaye give him such a eitzah? So the Gemara says this case is an exception. B'nai shani, if it's a case where it's his father, the father didn't want to support the son, in such a case, it's an exception. Chachamim would allow to do this kind of shtick to get the father to support his son. And also, shani, since he was a Talmud Chacham, to support for Talmud Chacham to be able to learn Torah, here, Abaye said this would be allowed to be done. But now the Gemara has a whole different shaila. Frek the Gemara, in our case, what are we saying? That the father was a guarantor for the payment of the ksubah for his son. But in fact, the Gemara, v'ha arev hu, he's just a guarantor for the ksubah, and the kaimalon, the halacha is arev the ksubah, a person that comes and says, I'm guaranteeing the payment of the ksubah, loy mishtabed. His words are not effective. There's no shibud that takes effect in him that he will be obligated to pay the ksubah. And the reason, the Gemara is soon going to explain, the reason for this is, a ksubah is not like a loan. By a ksubah, nobody actually gave money or lent money here that you cause someone to lose money to lend money. It's just that you want that this woman should be able to get married. So you're doing a mitzvah just to help her get married, to guarantee the payment of the ksubah. But you're not going to be obligated to pay it all. So how is the father here obligated to pay this Moshe but what was his name again? Moshe Bar Atzri. How would he be obligated to pay for a son anyways? He's just an Orev, and Orev does not take effect by a ksubah. Answers the Gemara, Kablan Hava. He wasn't just an Orev, he was a Kablan. As we learned before, Kablan is a stronger expression. When you say 10, give, in this case he used an expression making him a Kablan, so therefore he will be obligated. Well, this itself is a machlekes. It depends what case here, because this is a good answer. Lamandam, according to the opinion that says kablan de ksubah, but if you're a kablan for the payment of a ksubah, afagav de lesle nichsi lebal. Even if it's a situation where you see that the husband himself, when he's getting married, has no money. Mishtabit. But nevertheless, if you obligate yourself to be a guarantor on the level of a kablan, your words are taken seriously, and it takes effect. You have a shibud. So then shapir. Then we can say that's the case that happened over here. His son Rav Huna had no money when he got married. The father Moshe Ba'atzri took it upon himself as a kablan, and therefore he was obligated to pay. But another opinion holds isle mishtabed. If the husband himself has money, has properties, then the shibud of the kablan takes effect. But ilesle loy mishtabed. If he has no money and no properties, then even accepting upon himself on the level of a kablan, it does not take effect because he's not saying it seriously. He knows that the husband has no money. He's not going to be able to pay. Doesn't want to accept this upon himself. He's only doing it because he sees that this chassan, this husband here, is penniless, and he wants him to be able to get married. So it doesn't take effect. So the Gemara's what are we going to say regarding our case? The Gemara's assumption over here is that Rav Huna had no money. As we see, he was poor later, so the Gemara is assuming that when he got married, he had no money then. So the father, being a kablan, never took effect. So the Gemara says, no, Iba is saying, if you want, I could say, Me'eva Havile. In the beginning, when Rav Huna got married, he had properties. V'ishtaduf, and it got ruined, it got destroyed. Now he had no money. But then there was money, so therefore the father accepting upon himself to be a kabbalah took effect. Or we could say it's different here in our case, because even if you're going to say that a stranger that comes and accepts upon himself to be a kabbalah for a ksubah does not take effect, he just wants to shidduch he wants him to get married, but not by a father. By a father, it's his own son, so he is serious and it does take effect. The Gemara brings the source of this whole entire concept here. The Itmer, we learned the following: Orev the ksubah, a person that's a guarantor, just as a regular level of a guarantor for a ksubah, divrei hakoil, everybody agrees, loy mishtabed, that it does not take effect. Now, kablon, the bal chayv, in a case where a person accepts upon himself with the stronger language that we learned before, to be a kablon for a regular loan, divrei hakoil mishtabed, that everybody agrees that stronger language will take effect and it'll be an obligation for this kablon to pay. Now, kablon the ksubah, in a case where you use a stronger language of a kablon by a ksubah, or v'arev the balchayv, or even using the regular language as an arev for any loan. Here, pligi, there's an argument in both cases. Mar savar, one opinion is, if the borrower has money at the time of the loan, then mishtabed, then the shibud takes effect. But if we see that he has no money, then it does not take effect, because then the guarantor was not serious about guaranteeing and actually paying this loan because he doesn't want to take this kind of risk. He sees he has no money. But Amar Savar, another opinion is Bein Islay, Bein Leslay, whether he has money, whether he does not have money, Mishtabed. The shibud takes effect by a kabbalah, by the ksubah, and an arev by a regular loan. And the Hilchase, the Gemara Paskins, and here the Girsa of the Rashbam is, as the Bach brings, you skip over here these words, and the Rashbam is good, is Bekulu Mishtabed, that any kind of guarantor, the shibud that he accepted upon himself to be a guarantor takes effect. Bar me'arev d'ksubah. Besides, if you just accept upon yourself the regular level of being a arev, a guarantor for a ksubah, does not take effect. And here the Gemara explains the reason why a ksubah is different, because the afagav the islay labal, and that's even in a case where the husband has money, has properties at the time when you're guaranteeing. Loy mishtabed, when you are guaranteeing the payment of a ksubah, it's not serious. It doesn't take effect. My time, and what's the reason for this? Because mitzvah David, he's doing a mitzvah. He wants this shidduch over here. He wants them to get married, and it's not a case where there was borrowing money. He just wants to help them that they should get married. And v'lav midi chasra, it's not a case where he's causing the husband to lose money, like a regular guarantor. A guarantor comes and says, "I'm guaranteeing and therefore lend money." So you now cause the lender to give the money. But over here, you didn't cause the husband to lose any money, and based on your words, and therefore being a arev in such a case by a ksubah does not take effect.